Andrew Berry might have just won the lottery, and I'm going to explain why on today's episode. But really quickly, I do need your help to reach my goal of 42,000 subscribers before NFL free agency kicks off. So if you are looking for a go-to Browns YouTube channel to keep you in the know on all signings and trades and things like that, scroll on down, click that subscribe button. It's completely free. As I was saying, Andrew Berry might have just hit the jackpot, although, to give him credit, I don't think this is some big surprise to him. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about something that's got Berry by the balls. The NFL salary cap, because he has structured contracts in a way where he has put so much money into the future that we commonly call that kicking the can down the road. And that expression worked a lot more when the NFL salary cap had a slow and steady increase. I don't think that expression works with the explosion we are going to see over the next couple of years. So let me paint the picture a little bit more clear for you guys and add some color to it. Brett Coleman, who has an excellent YouTube channel, really breaking down X's and O's, things like that, highly recommend him. He tweeted out a bit of a novel, which I'll somewhat summarize for you, but zone in on a few key points here. But he talks about how the rating system is going to change a little bit because there's all this streaming stuff, and that doesn't really take into account YouTube TV and whatnot, but it will start to take into account. And when that happens, and the NFL goes back to the negotiating table in a couple of years with CBS, Fox, NBC, all those major networks, they're going to have a lot of data in front of them that says, look how much viewership we have. All of our ads and the right to stream our games, those just went up. And that means more money for the league. And what happens to all the money the teams make in TV contracts, which is their biggest revenue maker? It's divided up by all 32 teams. If you ever want to know how much the league made in a certain year, go look at the Packers because they are a publicly owned team, and so they have to share all of their earnings. And you just take the number the Packers made, multiply it by 32, and that's how much the NFL made. But one part here from Coleman I really want to highlight. If I'm a GM, that means next year or maybe even this year, I can sign some truly outrageously backloaded deals with a ton of funny money that all slams home in 2030 and not even care about the math. The salary cap is about to explode. And this is what the Browns were banking on. It happened last year a little bit where we saw a major uptick in the salary cap because what happens right now is we see all these salary cap projections of, hey, the Browns are $30 million over the cap. Keep in mind, that's just over the cap's prediction for what the salary cap will be. If the salary cap comes in $10 million more than that prediction, the Browns go from being $30 million over to being $20 million over. And so what they are projecting this year is a $272.5 million salary cap. We'll get that actual number in a few weeks. But you can see the steady growth. I mean, after, Coco really took the league revenue down in 2020, the NFL from a money-making side has really started to get back onto a roll. And I think they're about to tap into a whole new well. That's streaming. Because they sold Netflix Christmas Day games for $150 million, and it was a major success. That's $150 million divided by 32. And when the NFLPA sees what the NFL made in any given year, they're going to go up to the NFL owners and say, look how much money you guys made. That means you can pay us more because you're making more money, so we're going to make more money. And that means the NFL salary cap is going to go up. We may not like having to have an account for all of these different games. You got to have Peacock to watch a game, Netflix, Amazon Prime, ESPN Plus. Don't get me wrong. It can be infuriating. It can be frustrating. But the more streaming that the NFL sells off, the more money for the league. And the more money for the league, the higher the salary cap. And the higher the salary cap, the better for the Browns, who have made a bet on the salary cap going up and up and up and up and exponentially up. How about this, by the way, from USA Today, talking about the NFL making money in this whole new revenue path? Peacock paid a reported $110 million for last season's wildcard playoff game between the Chiefs and the Dolphins. This year, that exclusive postseason streaming slot was awarded to Amazon Prime for $120 million. Netflix, paying $150 million. There is a lot of success from the NFL and Roger Goodell's standpoint to selling these games for streaming services to take care of. And they make a boatload of cash on just one game. It's now out there that Netflix wants to have a say or have a foot in Sunday games. They want to be there with CBS and Fox every single Sunday. It's not going to be long until these streaming services, because they made a ton of money off of this by gaining more subscribers and getting more repeat viewers and customers, want a big piece of the pie. And like I said, more money for the league, more money for the Browns. More money for the Browns, higher the salary cap. And that is what Andrew Berry needs, not to get out of this stranglehold he finds himself in. You're going to see people toss out the Browns are in salary cap hell because of Deshaun Watson's contract. I think that's lazy. I think that's using a mindset of the salary cap barely goes up year after year. They would be in salary cap hell if the cap increased 2 to 3%, maybe 5%. No, we saw it increase 13% last year. That's double than what it usually increases by. So when you look at a player's salary cap hit, we got to stop thinking about that hit applying to this year's salary cap. We got to think about it applying to future salary caps. And with those numbers going up and up and up, sure, $50-60 million is a big cap hit when it's against $270 million of cap space. But when this number gets up to nearly $400 million maybe by 2030, that's going to be chump change compared to $270 million. So what my guess is for what the Browns do next from here, with hopefully this really good piece of news that the NFL salary cap is going to continue to skyrocket, is Deshaun Watson's going to miss all of 2025 on the PUP list. His contract is insured. The Browns will get $44 million in cap relief for 2026. So what they can do is designate Deshaun Watson as a post-June 1 release next offseason. I'm talking 12 months from right now. They will take on a $73 million dead cap hit for 2026. But they also get $44 million in cap relief, making that number much more digestible. And then $27 million in 2027. That sounds like a big number because today it is. In 2027, that's probably going to be more like $20 million from like a percentage standpoint. And that's nothing to NFL GMs when it comes to roster construction. That's not going to be a major prohibitor for them putting together a great team. So that's probably what the future holds. The Browns, while they sure wanted Watson to play well, I don't think this contract has handcuffed the team. His play has handcuffed the team from having success. His contract is not going to be a thing that gets in the way for the Browns achieving greatness. Poor quarterback play by the decision they made to trade for him, that's the crime here. The contract, it might sound like an albatross of a contract, but he's not even a top 10 highest paid quarterback anymore, and I don't think it's going to be something that stops the Browns from achieving what they want to do in the offseason. So I think there is not an easy escape hatch, but it's not this impossible path forward of the Browns are in cap hell now. No, they're not. It might look that way when they're $30 million over the salary cap in February, but they're going to get the cap rollover. They're going to restructure some deals. They're going to push money into the future. And yeah, there'll be some years in 2027, 28, 29 where they are paying guys who are not on the team anymore. But their cap hit percentage is going to be so low, it's not going to be a big difference maker. Ultimately, all of this comes down to Andrew Berry. Because while he made this gamble of the NFL salary cap going up, so you see the Browns and the Eagles, and what do you know? Berry used to work for the Eagles under Howie Roseman, be two of the most aggressive teams in backloading contracts to maximize their spending now. Like Howie Roseman after the Super Bowl said, if he compared the NFL salary cap and dead money to like an interest-free loan, where you can push money into the future and that money's not going to increase over time with interest. So why pay it now when I can pay it later? And the percentage of that cap hit will decrease because the salary cap will go up. I know we're talking a lot of numbers and the salary cap's a myth, but of course not really a myth, but it's kind of a myth. But here are two teams that have the same line of thinking of aggressive spending now because they have ownership that will restructure deals. They will sign contracts for signing bonuses on the spot, which the broke boys in Cincinnati won't do. And they are fine to operate this way. I don't think this is a bad process for Cleveland. The issue was, and this is where it comes down to Barry, they have not made the right selections at that quarterback position. I don't think that the entire model needs to go into the trash, and this was a disaster of a path forward. No, it's a good path. They just have the wrong guy leading them on the path, right? You signed up for a great tour. You hit all the good spots. You got a bad tour guide. The Eagles have a good tour guide. The Browns need a good tour guide. So it's not that they went to the Coliseum and the Vatican and that was a bad idea. They just didn't have a good person leading them. But I don't think the plan should be we need to alter our course of cap management. No, you just have to pick the right players. You got to make the shots in front of you. And that's where Barry has to come through here because he's got the second overall draft pick. He's got the first pick in round number 2. He has to make the right selections. But the Browns are not doomed from a salary cap perspective. This is a great news item for Andrew Barry to kind of have a big sigh of relief going, my bet is paying off right now. So what is your confidence level in Andrew Barry? We were all putting laser eyes on him like a year ago. I don't think he's getting laser eye treatment anymore. I would put myself at I put myself at 5.1. And that's not a very popular opinion, but you want a more unpopular opinion? I don't think that trading Baker away to acquire Deshaun Watson at the time was an awful idea from a football player perspective. If you didn't like the trade because you didn't like Watson and all the off-the-field issues, I won't argue with you on that. But the Browns saw Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen rising in the AFC, and they made a decision. Who's more likely to beat those quarterbacks? Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield? They picked Watson, which back then, everyone would have picked Watson. They got, I don't want to say unlucky, but they didn't anticipate was Watson would just kind of fall off a cliff and also just run through a lot of injuries. And the injuries part's the unlucky break, but him just forgetting how to play football, you can place that in coaching staff, place that on Watson. I don't know. That's for someone else to do a deep dive on. But I don't think the process was bad for Cleveland. It just didn't work out this time. When looking back on it from a football player perspective, it didn't seem like a horrible decision to bet on Watson to be a better quarterback moving forward than Baker. But unfortunately, that just didn't really materialize. I also don't think, by the way, if the Browns, if they never trade for Deshaun Watson, they keep Baker, I don't think Baker's getting a second contract from Cleveland. Him and Stefanski were butting heads big time by the end. Stefanski was over Baker. Baker was publicly criticizing the way James Hudson was left on the island with TJ Watt, which he's not wrong, but going to the media and throwing your coach under the bus is not a good way to solve that problem. Baker stormed off after the Lions win, didn't speak to the media. There were some serious fractions. And Baker has been, I wouldn't say nothing but positive, but pretty glowing about his, remarks when it comes to Cleveland. And I think learning from, a little bit of humble pie in Carolina, learning from Sean McVay, shaped him into the quarterback he is today in Tampa. So I don't think Baker was on a path to come back to Cleveland long-term anyway. But that's a whole lot of, we'll never know in the NFL, right? What could have been. Before we sign off, I do want to pick a card to wrap up today's episode, as always. It is Trace Moustakis with me today. Mr. Moose, which card do you want to go with, Kimosabi? Let's go 9 of Hearts. I'm thinking 6 of Clubs. I'm going to audible, though, to 2 of Diamonds. No, Jack of Hearts. Jack of Hearts. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.